Conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco. Del Piero, gol! Alex, Del Palla di Pogacar, Pogba, rete, un gol incredibile, Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium.
Got to take a deep breath. Coming to you 10 minutes after the final whistle blew on what was a very frustrating Juventus-Atalanta match. Ciao tifosi bianconeri. Hello and welcome to episode 316 of the Turin Giants podcast. I am Kevin, your host for this episode, and I am joined by my two friends, Zach and Frederic, who is deep into a bottle of wine and a pack of cigarettes. Gentlemen, how are we?
I saw Frederic 2 days ago, and he's aged 10 years in just that amount of time.
It's amazing what being a Juventus supporter does with you at times. And I love my wine, but I'm just drinking because it's wine. I didn't even look at the bottle, just open one up right straight from the go and chugging now. So yeah, let's get into it.
Needless to say, Kevin, we're grumpy.
For all the right reasons. So before we get into it, I want to start with the most pressing point of this evening. Is we should never be wearing those kits at home. I am a traditionalist. You wear black and white at home. I don't understand why we have to go out in those pajama, sky blue, Napoli colored kits. But clearly that's not here. That's not why we're here. Let's so before we dive into what was a very frustrating match, just obviously a bit of housekeeping. You can follow and listen to this podcast on all podcast platforms, most notably Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. If you are listening on Spotify, you can watch this. There is a video component to it, and it will also be posted to YouTube at our account, Turin Giants Official. Please go ahead and follow us on Instagram as well at Turin Giants and at our transfer news focused page as well at The Scoop Juve. And we always appreciate a like, a follow, a 5-star rating. And again, this was not a 5-star Juve, but we hope to give you a 5-star review of that match.
And make up for the fact that due to scheduling fun times, we missed the Verona post game. So we're bringing extra to this post game, despite our grumpiness.
Or
So
we'll
guys,
try to.
Yeah, we'll try. Yeah,
or we'll try to, absolutely. So before we get into starting 11 tactics, criticism of Tudor and the approach to the game, or whatever there may be with respect to his coaching, what's kind of your one takeaway? Like, we're like, again, 10-15 minutes after the final whistle. What's sitting with you right now? Zach, we'll start with you.
This is the thing that's going around my head right now, is what is different from the performance we saw from the 16 draws we saw last year. Like, I'm trying to really break down, I mean, individual players, sure, there are moments and whatnot, but essentially the flavor is against this weak Atalanta team, especially with a red card late, who we dominated in the first half. We should have never lost this game. Like so many of the draws last year, which ended up killing much of our season and bringing it down to the very end of the season and whether we were going to be even top 4. So I guess I'll stop there, Kevin. What my thing is this team, is this culture, is what we saw on the pitch from this game any different than what we saw last year? And I'm concerned that the answer might be that there is no different, and that scares me.
It lacks a bit of evolution. Whereas, coming into the season with the first game we saw, we were positive, fairly positive, I might add, but for good reason, because we showed fighting spirit, we showed some cohesion on the pitch. We had two players we brought in at practically on deadline day who could potentially be of individual class for us and help us separate, especially the situation we had last year, attacking wise, that we didn't create as much, we didn't score as much, and whatever. So it had all the premises of being something positive, something that was going to be an evolution in the right way. Now, after the Verona game and this game, and granted it's only two games, but there's no cohesion. Like, what is this team good at? Are we good at defending? Are we good at attacking? Do we have a midfield that is significantly better than the rest? I have all these question marks in my head, and to further state or build upon what Zach just said, we're practically stuck in limbo, even though we have a better squad as a whole. We wanted more depth. We got more depth, especially in the attacking zone. We wanted players that are relatively of better quality than what we had. I think we also can check that box. And now we're stuck here against a very, very poor Atalanta side, and everything just happens casually. We didn't do anything after that before we made that equalizer that just fell out of the air. To be honest, I mean, it wasn't
Yeah,
an
second half was bad. That second half was bad.
So yeah, I'm gonna try to analyze the facts a bit more further as we do this pod. But needless to say, I think we're all disappointed. I think every Juventus fan right now is disappointed because we're just throwing points away at this point.
And I
There's no
think
doubt about it.
sorry, Frederick. But I think you have to look holistically. We win the game 1, 2-0, clean win. We're happy. We win game 2 against Genoa. It was a tough game, but we pull that that corner kick late. Hey, if you're gonna go, the good teams win tough. That's part of the journey to the Scudetto, right? You beat Inter in a whirlwind game. Oh, we showed fighting spirit. We come back against Dortmund. But wait a minute. Now this is the third straight game where we have severely struggled to control matches. And then Verona, where we are good for 15 minutes and we suck for 75. That's a fourth straight game where we are not able to impose our will in the game. And now we're here against Atalanta, where when we were dominant, we weren't able to capitalize and we had to rescue it with a late game. The fifth straight game of 6 or fourth straight game of 5, however many it is, where we failed to actually command or control a game. And so I think one thing that's also in the back of my mind, I'm cheating, Kevin. This is my second one, is
No, it's okay.
we haven't actually seen a good performance. We've seen good moments, but we've yet to see a good performance, at least in the last several games, which also is concerning. Is this team growing? In
I mean,
the
I
attack,
remember. I'm sorry
you could
to
say
interrupt.
attack. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, this really fortifies what you were saying. We were hoping for that Genoa game. I remember us significantly just wanting a good game in terms of a clean sheet win with relative dominance, and not these last minute thrillers, or giving all these Hail Marys in the last 15. That's all we wanted. Now we're 3 games beyond that, and we're still trying to figure out how to decently attack or control a game. I mean, that can be a coincidence in one game, but you're not going to tell me that's a coincidence after a month. So that means, actually, Zach, like you were saying, that we're not evolving, in my opinion.
Let me start by saying I am just as frustrated with the result. This is a game we should have won, especially having the last 15 minutes being a man up. I think we had every opportunity to really take it to them. And I think if McKennie's shot had been another 10 centimeters to the left, we might be talking a different story and and being really excited about pulling off a win against Atalanta. Let me offer just a slightly different take, because I'm trying to, for the sake of discussion, even though I am frustrated. You do look at that match, and I'm looking at the stats right here, and I know it's going to be a little bit inflated and skewed because of playing the last 10 or 15 minutes a man up, but nearly 70% possession. We had 25 shots, 10 on target, 2 big chances. You look at the passing accuracy, and you compare this to Atalanta matches last year where we got crushed at home in a game that we don't want to revisit. And we also had a 1-1 draw with them away when we had 30% possession. And now we have this kind of flipped on its head. So if you're not winning games, you want to be able to see, is there progression in the play? Is the team going in a positive direction that might just take a little bit of time with new players, with trying to figure out the best way to play, with Tudor coming into his first full season with the team. And I look at this, and we did play well in the first half specifically. It was a bright start. We did not have quite as many like clear-cut opportunities, but we were trying to create them. And you look again at Thiago Motta games where we did have the upper hand in possession. We were never creating anything. We were never picking our head up and looking towards the goal. It would get to one corner, turn back, pass it back across the middle up to the other corner. And we've talked about this. It's this horseshoe passing that would go on endlessly with doing nothing. You saw a team that was creating, that was in command. And if it wasn't for one mistake at the end of halftime or right before halftime, we would have gone in 0-0. And I feel that we had a good chance in the second half. But we had a mistake. We fall behind. We do get our goal back. And I look at the way that we're playing, the way that we are going to goal. Having a fully fit Zagrova from the first minute, I think, is going to be a very exciting thing for our team. I think I think there are some positives to pull from it. And I kind of ask you guys to, I don't know, just let that sit as the conversation kind of continues. And if you do think there are some good things that we can build upon.
Can I quickly, before we dive deeper, can I quickly,
Sure.
reverse cart you like for 1 second? Because
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said, and I agree that there's some sort of evolution or progress, whatever you want to call it. However, in the 19 games that Tudor has coached, we only managed 5 of those to obtain a clean sheet. And I feel, that's just my opinion, I'm nobody, I'm just some douchebag drinking wine, smoking cigarettes, but I feel that this is one of our major issues because we practically score every game. We do. There isn't a game that we haven't scored this season yet. So if you put that into the equation and you have some stability in your midfield, because I think the issue stems from the midfield, and I think
I
Zach will
agree.
agree with me after viewing his tactical analysis videos, which, by the way, are awesome. If you put that into the equation and you can fortify your midfield or even your defense at some point, then you win points. But that's something, in my opinion, Tudor doesn't do well. He doesn't see that need or that, how shall I put it, maybe adaptation of formation to recede or convert more clean sheets in order to get more points. And for me, that's one of the biggest issues.
Can I Uno reverse his Uno reverse card?
You can. I don't know if it's
Are
legal.
there enough of those cards in the deck?
I don't know if we have
There
to
are
look it up
now.
if it's possible, but I'll give you the reverse card.
We're gonna talk. We're gonna get into the game, and so I'll cue this up to sort of transition to the next topic. But Frederic, I agree with you when we look at our season. This game, though, it was an issue of not creating the right kind of chances as opposed to defensive weakness. You're going to have boneheaded, isolated goals you give up. Like in this one, it's like you can't, like you don't blame the midfield or the defense for conceding this goal. It was two really bad individual errors. Odzic getting dispossessed, and then Gatti being beat twice one-on-one by the guy. Like neither of those should ever happen. That's not a fundamental tactical issue with defensive or midfield units. This game, and we'll talk about it, was more about how we went about trying to score, especially in that second half when we were down and we needed it.
And I look forward to getting into that conversation. But let's rewind just a little bit and look at the starting 11. So Zach, if we can kind of look to you, what were when you saw the starting 11, what was your initial reaction?
It was gobbledygook, in my opinion. When you look at the collection of players, you can almost see how the manager wants them to play to some extent based on complementary characteristics. And this team had none. Can I walk you through some of them? The first
Absolutely.
is Cambiaso. You're like, okay, if Openda's going to be in there, he's not a back to goal type of thing. He wants to run to the channel. Maybe we're going to need a central presence in order to complement his vacation of space. We know Cambiaso likes to move into the field. That will allow us to outnumber their midfield and progress the ball through the middle of the pitch. But instead of outnumbering their midfield, to replace Cambiaso's space, they send Thuram, which means you're just switching one midfielder to another. You're not actually taking advantage of the inverted nature of Cambiaso's gameplay. 1. 2, when you have a forward that wants to make runs in the channel like Openda, and you're not going to have a central presence because, aforementioned point, you need somebody who can play a long ball. Locatelli spent the entire game on the bench. Coop has played nothing but short passes this year. And so you weren't going to ever feed Openda. The last hope to get Openda involved was for Yildiz to stay central. Now, Frederic has mentioned I'm doing little tactical videos. Every time in this season when we've been scoring, it's because Yildiz is playing centrally. And every period of play where we failed to score, Yildiz is playing on the wing. Look up his heat map today, folks. He spent the whole time on the wing. So Openda, and I said this in Bepe's episode when we were there 2 days ago. I said, you start Openda. He's never going to get on the ball with the way Yildiz has been playing positionally. And I love to toot my own horn. People say they don't. I love it. I was so right. We saw it today. Cambiaso was neutralized by having Thuram move outside. Openda was neutralized by not playing Locatelli or playing Yildiz centrally. It just, when we look at this, I mean, we could talk about Odzic made mistakes. Kalulu, we may not love him at wingback. Individual mistakes from Gatti, who did not have a good game. But fundamentally, when you look at this 11, is I don't see a complementary style or skill set or of movement or characteristics that was ever going to be like, this is our pathway to victory. Now, teams somewhat proved me wrong by playing a really good first half, a first half that they did not capitalize on. And the issues with the starting 11 was exposed when we went down heavily.
I agree. And the thing that, worries me most is that every time we see those starting 11s, I mean, you can be pro this player, pro that player. You can be biased all you want, but I think, Kevin, you can agree to this. Every time in the group chat, we sort of agree on the fact that, the starting 11 is somewhat baffling, might I add. Like today was no different. And the fact that Tudor has to sub that many times also gives away something. And the fact that he doesn't take that away until the next game, he doesn't seem to realize, okay, I made a mistake here. This was my starting 11. This wasn't a mixture of players that are, somewhat a symbiose of what we can achieve. No, it was haphazardly put together. I'm going to change that next game. It never seems to happen. So it's always us being or chasing the goal that we're down due to the formation that we, or Tudor in this particular instance, messed up. And we never get to even process the game and force the opponents to undergo our game, we always have to chase while we should be on the hunt. And we can do that because we have the players to do that. One thing or two things you need to do as a coach, in my opinion, you have to get your starting 11 right, and you have to get your basic formation right in order to get the most out of the players you have at your disposal.
Mhm.
If you can't do one of either things, or preferably both, then you'll see a lot of these games this season. And then we can cheer Fino alla fine and mentality and Juventinita and all we want, but they're going to be teams that are not going to be as stupid as Atalanta and give away the equalizer. There are going to be teams that are going to choke us to death and be ahead 3-0 when come halftime. And if Tudor doesn't come to that realization, then he's not the right coach for Juventus. And I'm sorry, because I was anti Mota last season, I think with good reason. I'm not anti Tudor, but I feel a coach and a team need to evolve together. Players
It was a
individually,
really
the team as a whole, and
it was a it was a really lopsided formation too, wasn't it? I mean, I think Zach, your critique of the potential to have Cambiaso go into the central midfield to add more quality and more kind of weight in the midfield because we've seen good success playing centrally. Despite that, his combination with Yildiz and the chances created and the quality on that left side, I thought was actually quite good, particularly in the first half. But on the right side of the pitch, there was nothing. I mean, Kalulu almost snuck in that goal with his header, of course, and I applaud his positioning there. But the interplay and the quality and the ability to beat a man and create anything from the right side was very much lacking.
It-
And then it becomes almost all too predictable that everything's going to be going down the left side, and it just we were kind of stuck there, unable to break it into the middle or put it in a quality cross.
When we saw at the beginnings last season of the potential of the Taram Cambiaso Yildiz left side, right, which we didn't necessarily see in its full promise today, though Cambiaso and Yildiz were fantastic that first half. We called for the need for balance on the other side. Who is going to create that type of threat from the other side if the opposing team starts bottling up the side that is clearly dangerous? And a right side of João Mario Chico Conceição or João Mario Eden Jagrova, I think absolutely has the potential, based on what we've seen from them, to cause a similar level of havoc. But today we had Kalulu Odzic, and I'm not knocking the players, but when you look at the characteristics that they could bring in attack, like Odzic very much is a central midfielder, and how he plays and how he positions. And I think there's an amazing promise there. But for what we needed to balance this team, that I don't think was really the answer. He had some great chances on the ball in the first half. He had a nice one-time shot. It was a little too weak. He had that free kick again, a little bit too weak, but well placed. So there's clearly a player there, but he doesn't have that level of dynamism for that position to garner the same level of threat and therefore attention from the opposing teams to then keep free up somebody, I should say. And that, I think, was on display here. And by virtue of that, Kevin, despite how good they were, when they got on the ball, Cambiaso and Yildiz, where was it? It was far away from goal.
Yep.
On the wing. And that's the problem, is we need somebody to then shift in. A Jagrova at the top of the box, shifting in from the opposite wing is going to terrify defenses. Because even if he gets on the ball and takes a touch, you don't know which way he's going to go. He could juke you out of your shorts. Odzic, nobody was worried about that, because that's not really
No,
what we've seen from him.
it was a
right?
very pedestrian performance. I mean, he's a young kid, and like you said, like I look forward to his growth. But it was average at best. So Frederic, if you were put yourself in Tudor's very large shoes for a moment, you're putting this lineup on the pitch from minute one, and let's say you have conviction in what you've put out there. You haven't been forced into this corner because of injuries or selection issues.
Mhm.
You intentionally went to play the match with this team. What are you expecting from them? What is the style of play you expected to see to drive to a victory?
I think, and once again, I have to repeat myself, I'm nobody, but I just feel and I think, in my opinion, Tudor went for that center midfield with 4 players to assert a bit of dominance over Atalanta. However, if you want to play 4 in midfield, and Zach, please feel free to interrupt me because you're a tactical guru here. I feel you need to have the players to do that as well with the right characteristics and have the style of play that they as a midfield as a whole can, bring to the table and choke out the midfield from our of our opponents. If you look at the starting 11, you can already assume, and I haven't seen these guys in training, I haven't seen their shape, their form, or whatever, but you can already see that it's not a set of a midfield that is good enough or has the capabilities as a whole to do that. So that's, in my opinion, the thing that Tudor messes up already, in my honest opinion. Then the other thing what we do is we get that goal in, we get that equalizer in. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Everybody's happy. We didn't do much before that, so it kind of fell out of thin air. Okay, we got it nonetheless. What we start doing then is start pumping crosses in like crazy. While we have a lot of technical players on the field that are able, with an individual lightning bolt, to change the prospects of the game. No, we failed to do that. We just pump random balls into the box, knowing full well that this is of no avail because we don't have the height, the depth, the strength in front, to make this.
It was just an isolated Dushan in there, really. And then maybe
Yeah.
sometimes an
So
errant center back who was pushed up, right? I mean, that's it.
so for me, if I'm Tudor and I'm looking at this performance and I'm gonna stop at the 60-minute mark, I have to start asking questions. And the thing that baffles me most is, and I'm gonna sound repetitive on this, but you should be asking yourself questions 3 games before this game. And I have no doubt that he did, but he doesn't do anything with them. He doesn't act. He doesn't. What does he do now? He fortifies our midfield by bringing 4 people in instead of 2, which is a good idea to start with, but you have to implement it properly. And I think Tudor didn't implement it properly today, or not with the right people. And well, your game is effed before you even begin, in my opinion. And you could see that because we talked about these 15 minutes. Granted, the first 15, 20 minutes weren't that bad, but it's not like we had 4 or 5 open, clear chances to score. That should be the objective. With the quality we have offensively, and you grab Atalanta by the throat, you should be able to create at least 2, 3 clear-cut chances and get at least 1 or 2 goals from them. We didn't. And it was only a matter of time because you could see that Atalanta was waiting for that counterattack because they know they couldn't produce anything offensively on their own. They had to wait for that counterattack. So you could see they were waiting to hurt us, and they did well. And then we come into the second half and we're just toothless. No aggression, no speed of play, no 1-2s, no nothing. And
That that's what I want to touch on, Frederic, because if I could answer the same question, Kevin, with this team, if I'm convinced with this team, the answer is pace of play. Okay, you have Odzic. He's not Jagrova or Chico in there. But he's very good on the ball. He's a very good passer. Koop Miners has not shown an extensive passing range at Juventus, and he slows everything down. I would take these guys, Cambiaso, who was basically our midfield because Thuram was playing deep and Yildiz was playing wide, and be like, you guys need to be fast and move constantly. And that's kind of what we saw for those first 20 minutes. We saw very effective off-the-ball movement. The man marking of Atalanta could not keep up, and that allowed us to move up the pitch and fashion decent chances. decent chances. We had a really a dangerous back post cross from Kalulu. We had the Kalulu header off the bar. You had really good central runs with Cambiasso and so forth. It's all about with against this team. It's move.
I made a note. I was
running.
taking notes, and I have a note here. 24 minutes in, 70% possession with 6 shots. Honestly, happy. I thought we would give possession to Atalanta,
but we did, and we came in with the right. Yeah. So we came in with the wrong personnel, in my opinion, but the right game plan. Okay, and when we had the right game plan, even with personnel that weren't that great for it, we still came up with good chances. But as soon as the game plan started to unravel, 25-minute mark, and certainly the second half where we were slow, we did not have that same movement. We did not have that same energy. And we were therefore not creating anything because Atalanta was able to adjust their positioning and match us pound for pound. It's like once the game plan receded, then the personnel and related tactical deficiencies were highlighted, which is why we did nothing. We did nothing until we got lucky. I mean, as lucky as Atalanta did, I would say, give or take, with their goal. We got lucky.
We were lucky at times as well, because if Kristovic had his shooting boots on around the 60th, 56th minute mark, we could have been down 3-0, to be honest. And I mean, these were clear-cut chances. We didn't have any. And then to see players like, I remember Gatti and Vlahovic bumping in balls into the box. I mean, these are the last guys
who's Vlahovic crossing to.
I mean, it makes no sense.
He's going to cross it and then run and try and head his own cross.
He had the nice cross the other day because Kelly was there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Today there was nobody.
I mean, you have those big guys, and if you, as a coach, say, go forward at least, especially those last 5 to 10 minutes, I can relate to that. But be in the box, for fuck's sake. Don't be the one that pumps in the balls, because, I mean, it makes no sense, and it's all haphazardly put together. I mean, we're all just waiting on that fluke, that goal out of thin air to arrive, the Hail Marys. There's no cohesion. These are the things that are going to cost us points. With Mota, we saw that our style of playing just wasn't good enough in order to gain points. Amen, water under the bridge, it's passed. But now we see a coach that gets a lot of the results in the same way as Mota did, but in another way of playing. He doesn't seem to have that vision, and you don't see any of that on the pitch. He starts with the right, like you said, Zach, the right formation or style of play, but the wrong players to execute that. I mean, if you can't see that after, like, we're now 2 months into the season, I think, or a month and a half, if you cannot see that while you're working with these guys day in, day out several times, then when are you going to see it? When are you going to say, okay, my formation or the way that I put these players in, maybe I should, change a bit here and there. But it doesn't seem to happen, and it frustrates the hell out of me.
I think part of it is squad rotation. He starts Odzic. Not to say that Odzic doesn't deserve a chance in the starting rotation every time, but I think he's got to rotate. He starts him in there, Coop in there. I think these are clear rotation moves. He's giving Cambiasso a chance after a lot of criticism and after kind of highlighting him in the press conference. You have Jean-Marie on the bench. I would expect to see him start, if not the next game, very soon. So I think there's some rotation play there, which we're going to have to accept over the course of a season. We're not going to love every starting 11 because you can't play your best starting 11 every game. So I think that's one thing we should respectfully call out to Tudor is we've talked about issues with rotating and having impacts and stuff. I mean, he's got, from a midfield perspective, limited options. He's got several players still coming back from long-term injuries that he's got to work in.
And
I think that is one concession.
We should be mindful here that we have Villarreal coming up on Wednesday and Milan next Sunday. So rotating a little bit, Atalanta at home, not the Atalanta of the last couple of years, as critical as I and we have been of Coop Miners. If you're going to start him in one of these 3 matches, I hope he's not starting all 3 of them. But if you're going to start him in one of them against his own team, his old team at home, I can get
That's the
get
thing.
behind it.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see Koopmeiners starting against Villarreal again. And
He is
that's the
such
thing that
Is
worries
Loca
me.
is Loca hurt? I mean, like, why would we start him? And why Loca sat this game? Why doesn't he start?
I have a feeling I could be mistaken. I have a feeling he's going to start with Loca and Koopmeiners against Villarreal. I honestly do. I think he's
Coop
going to
Miners
bench
had
Thuram.
such a confusing performance today from my perspective, and let me, I'll explain. He started more brightly than, and I think we talked about that in our group text. He won that nice ball, moved the upfield because he was pressing. But then it just, the impact on the game seems to be non-existent. But then you look at his stats: 51 out of 52 passes complete, very tidy, very clean. 3 out of 3 accurate long balls, had
Most
3
kilometers.
tackles,
Most
covered
kilometers.
the took the words right out of my mouth. Covered the most distance on the pitch. But you watch him and he looks like a middle-aged business guy in a hotel room trudging along at a speed of 4.5 or 5 on a treadmill when he's running. It's just this, like,
I feel personally
it's
attacked, Kevin, because that is I think that's all 3 of us. that's all 3 of us.
but you're
I'm
not
in
a
fairly
20
good shape. I'm not
28
going to be
you're
offended by
not
that.
a
I'm sorry.
you're not a 28-year-old professional athlete making millions per year. But this is a guy, like, you look at the stats, he had a nice game. But then as the observer, unless you're focused on every little thing that he does because you're trying to assess Coop Miners specifically, he just fades into the background in the game.
Yeah,
You don't see the connecting linkage of taking it from the defense to the front line. You don't see the give and go passes and the interplay with the wings and pushing them forward. It's just very vanilla. It was tidy today, but it was just non-contributory.
I agree with you. So from about the 25th minute until a free kick in like the 78th minute, you didn't hear his name on the broadcast at all.
Yeah.
He just wasn't on the ball. I will say, though, when in previous games, his pace of play or his style of passing and so forth, I think was detrimental to our gameplay. I don't think necessarily it was it had a material and negative impact on our gameplay today, being a little bit more forgiving to Coop. I think a big question I have for Tudor is, why do our 10s, and Tudor likes to play around his 10s, why does he constantly drive them to the wings, effectively creating the horseshoe, Kevin, that you talked about, we saw in Nermota? It's a different formation, end up with the same result. It drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely nuts. I almost want, and this shows you how grumpy I am. Okay, you ready for this? I almost want to see Kostic start every game. And I know everyone's face is just making the same one that Frederic's made. But hear me out. Kostic doesn't leave the touchline. Kostic doesn't leave the touchline.
Heart palpitations.
Yeah, but hold on. Kostic doesn't leave the touchline, and so Gildas won't ever go there. He'll stay centrally. And that might be the only way to keep him in the middle of the pitch, because he's over there holding the hands with Lloyd Kelly, or he's holding hands with Cambiasso. And whether we love seeing, and I do love seeing him get the ball at the corner of the box to try to cut in and do the curler, right? We love it. And he's great at it. But as a team, our attack does better when he is more centrally. And unless Tudor can figure out how to force him to stay more centrally and link up play, you're going to have guys like Openda and Vlahovic be completely isolated. He's going to be running into the same spots as Cambiasso, and all of their beautiful interchange play will be in immaterial portions of the pitch. And not to just pick on Yildiz, but it happens on both sides. But Yildiz as the 10, the talisman, we need Tudor or the player to stop it, because it's so clear when you go back and look at periods of strength where he's positioned and periods where we have really struggled to create chances and where he's positioned.
It's funny you should say that because I had a discussion online with somebody today, and he said to me, "Well, we had like Pirlo, Marquisio, Vidal. You can't really compare. We were a team that's restructuring." It's not true. Who knew Vidal when he was coming from Leverkusen? Who knew that Pirlo would have such an impact? Even to go back a season or two, who knew that Marquisio, who came just straight of our academy, knew that he was going to be, because we had a vision. We knew which players we were bringing in and why they would click together. We don't have that because ultimately it's the coach's responsibility to make sure that happens, but it has to be in synergy with either a sporting director or a general director or whatever. And we had that at the time. We had a coach and a sporting director, a general director who were very meticulous about the symbiosis of the team. We don't have that now because we have a coach that says, I'm staying with my back three. You can buy whoever y'all want. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to try a back four. So, you know,
My
even
point though,
with
Frederic, my point though is that's okay. Stick to your formation. Put the players in a position to be successful. And I guess the point that I'm saying is with the formation we saw today, we weren't necessarily putting them in a position to be successful.
but it's the same with Coop.
Well, no,
Coop
well,
Yildiz.
Coop,
I mean,
Coop. I think there's something larger there, but Yield is absolutely,
the same with Openda. You
and
can't put
Openda.
Openda
You
in.
can't blame Openda. No,
No,
when you're put in a situation like this where he's never going to get the ball, and so
you
you have
play with
tongue in cheek with the Kostic thing. But I think so I'm not necessarily advocating that, but I think the point is you need to be putting in. Thank you, Frederic, kind of guiding me back to my point. You need to put players in a position to be successful for the team to be successful, and the team is more successful when Yield is central.
Yeah, of course. And the same can be said for Openda because he played a hell of a season with Sesko in front. And granted, Sesko to me is a very good player. But who's to say that Vlahovic can take over that Sesko role or even Jonathan David? But, if you blatantly keep into your regime and you want to put players where they don't fit and you just ask him to make a sacrifice and make it work, it's never going to work. It's never going to work.
So guys, I think we've spent a lot of time over these first so this is our fifth game. Yeah. No. No. So we spent a lot of time over these first kind of 5 matches discussing our discontent with both A, the starting 11, and B, the approach to the match with said players. So I want to give each of you the opportunity with a healthy team against Villarreal, which is a must-win Champions League match after dropping points against Dortmund. What is your starting 11? Zach, start with you.
All right.
I'm putting you on the spot.
No, this is
Frederic,
fine. Let me just give me a second. So I want to start with a player that I was just clamoring and praying we would have started today, because I anticipated the movement of the players that we would have. And I said, in Bepe's show, we have to start Jonathan David because he will drop in to have a possession and help actually build the ball up. And he won't just be an empty body up front. No offense to Openda. We talked about why. I want to see Jonathan David start the same. Okay. I think if Jagrova is fit, I'd like to see him. If not, that's fine. Take him along slowly. Then I want to see Openda. I would love to see Openda and Jonathan David alternating, one in the 10, one coming forward, making runs off of each other. David will stay centrally. Openda will make those runs around in the channel. I want to see McKennie as left wing back. He'll stay out wide and do dirty work and allow Yildiz the flexibility to move in. If we go with Jagrova, I want João Mario to start in right wing back. João Mario will move inverted. Jagrova will drift out wide. I think that's good balance there. If it's Jonathan David, I think you could start Kalulu or even Cambiasso on the right to help more possession play, because they'll drift in and then they'll work off of Jonathan David more as sort of quick passing. And I want to see Thuram, Locatelli in the midfield. I think collectively that provides a lot of balance, that not only with width, but also moving up and down the pitch. And I think that is what you start with. And then you tweak based on what you need. I very much view Openda and Vlahovic as more specialists. So Openda's a pace merchant who's good at finishing. Vlahovic is just, I don't know, a poacher, I guess. Jonathan David's much more of a balanced skill set. And you can see, what do we actually need here? Do we need build-up play? Do we need transition? Somebody who's going to run more? Do we need more defensive solidity? And so on and so forth. And then you can react more with a balanced squad such as this, as opposed to in a lot of games we've seen this year, today included, where you're fixing the mistakes that you created yourself with the players and the positions that you started the game with.
So you would, just to summarize, stick with the 3-4-2-1. Your back line would obviously be Kelly, Bremer, and then I think Kalulu, if I'm piecing this together.
It depends.
Because you're optimal.
Yeah.
But what you had said, like optimally, you're looking at David Yildiz Zagrova.
Yeah.
And then in that case, you said you'd go McKennie, Loca, Thuram, and then João Mario on the right, which would put Kalulu in the back three.
Yes. Yeah. And I just don't think Zagrova's fit to start, which is why I did the alternative one. We're going to see him start any day now.
It's got to be close. I mean,
which is why I'm hoping
fun.
But if it's not him, I'm don't get my criticism of Openda today. And I hope I wasn't critical of Openda. I think he was hung out to dry.
He didn't have a
good
game, but he was hung out to dry.
And so
we
it's not
did
at all a
bunch of wing
reflection of
play,
him.
and he's just.
I mean, that's the issue. Not all these players can be bad. Like we buy Openda, Openda shit. While at Leipzig, he was very good. We buy Douglas Luiz, Douglas Luiz sucks. We buy Vlahovic, Vlahovic sucks. I mean, there has to be some undertone here. There has to be some sort of thing that we, as a team, as a squad, as a club, do wrong. Apart from that, I wholeheartedly agree with Zach, but I'm just gonna spit out my formation. It would be Perin in goal.
Saw that coming from a mile away for those who have been listening.
I wouldn't have Di Gregorio bag my groceries even, so I'm not gonna put him in goal. But I think it'd be very good for Perin to start a game. I think he deserves to play a game. Also, Di Gregorio, to me, I mean, was not much he could do about that goal. But other than that, I didn't feel. Yeah. I always feel, a bit. Ooh, is somebody from the other team going to score when Di Gregorio is in goal or a shot happens? So apart from that, I'd start with Bremer, Kelly, and I think I'm going to say Cabal. Just because
two left-footed center backs on the back three, huh?
Yeah.
Who's the left-sided one? Kelly or Cabal?
I put Kelly on the left side. I think he did great today. Okay. Yeah, I think he did great today. I think
or would you put Cabal in the center and then Bremer on the right?
I think if I were the coach, I'd have them train on that too, and especially because we know that Bremer likes to go up front. Have them, switch up a bit in accordance with the third player that they have, because it could be Cabal, but could also be Gatti for that matter. Could also be João Mario if you feel lucky, but I wouldn't recommend that. I'd put João Mario in midfield as you, and my midfield I'd fill up with Thuram, Loca, and McKennie, as you stated. I'm on the fence about McKennie, maybe somebody else, but my front three would be for every game: Yildiz, David, Openda, until Zagrova's fit, until maybe.
So we have the same starting lineup. So we have the same starting lineup, except Cabal.
Cabal and Perin, I think. Or you're also.
I didn't even mention center backs and goalkeeper. I just whatever.
No, but it's the most logical thing to do. I mean, I love your tactical analysis because it's usually on point. But even for me, as somebody who's not in the know or not as deep in the know as you tactically, I think it's the most logical thing to do, because you could switch so many players during the course of the game without basically breaking up this whole formation. And I go a step further and I put a flat back four, But Tudor's not going to be there, not
It's
even
not
on
going to happen.
not even
It's
on
not going to happen.
Gump,
Like,
right?
I'd love to
So
see us actually in a 4-3-3. I really would.
we literally have the players to play a
Yeah,
four
we
three
do.
three. We these players, this whole squad is just perfect for a 4-3-3, and a 4-3-3 would allow us to have more clean sheets, but also get a little bit of dominance as well. Because as you said, you can put Kenan in a free role because you'd have your upcoming backs, so we could step back and not having to move out to the flanks as much because you have people occupying that space. So we could lean back, or
Mhm.
when we attack, he could go out through the center. But you also have a more dynamic midfield, in my opinion, because you have three midfielders that can equally move out until the penalty box of the opponents, or fall a bit back, or fall back with two midfielders and have one staying centrally. It'd be so much easier and so much better to look at, I think. But Tudor's
Yeah.
gonna Tudor. Let's not hope for it. So I'd go with that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think
I'd love to see a
we're
4-3-3.
we're clearly grumpy.
Mhm.
If it hasn't been said 470,000 times this
Mhm.
podcast, I think though it's I think my concern with this team is again, at least in these early stages, less of a explicit concern of fundamental issues and more just marking the flaws that we're seeing, and to see whether it develops into a legitimate trend.
Yep.
I think we absolutely have the starting points of a legitimate trend, but we're still betting in new signings. We still have people coming back to full fitness. Cabal, who's going to provide a more defensive rotation, if not balance. Jagrova, obviously. I can't wait to see what Moretti might be able to contribute to this midfield, as much as I'm not the hugest fan of his once he gets healthy again, to give us another option there. So I'm not ringing alarm bells just yet, but I am marking the data points.
These two games are going to be very crucial. And also, if I might add, can we drop that zone marking? I've said it every episode up until now, I think, Zach. If you don't have the players to execute a proper zone marking, you don't see any progression while you're coaching them, during weekdays. Leave it. Just do the man to man. Bremer's strong man to man, Cabal strong man to man, Gotti even. You could argue that John Mario is a bit weaker in that respect. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But this is not working. I mean,
But
if you look
and
at
to your point, we specifically, I think I counted 3 times, maybe 4, how many times we left somebody totally unmarked at the top of the box that gave them a look. And I don't know how that keeps happening, especially after what Çalhanoğlu did to us in the Inter match. You think we would have learned something, and what after Adeyemi did with in the Dortmund match. How we keep letting people pop up there at the top of the box.
Kevin, I created and posted my own analysis of this to YouTube because it was driving me absolutely up the wall. And I think one of the issues stem from our midfield, but I think one thing I want to point out, and I'm kind of wondering aloud here, is whether it's a communication issue. I think positionally our midfield gets lost. I think you have to be in sync with the players around you to understand who's going to trade off on what runners and what players. And I'm giving maybe the midfield more of a benefit of the doubt than I need to, by saying maybe it's not their fault. Maybe it's communication coming from behind them. We've had reports of, maybe Di Gregorio and the defense aren't always on the same page. Maybe that message isn't being shared from defense to midfield. But it's baffling to me that a unit that's largely played together now for over a year would
Mhm.
leave these types of spaces so obviously open. And when you actually break it down and you slow it down, the midfielders are dropping into space that is marking nobody and it's blocking
Yeah.
nothing. And I
They're
don't know
like
if that's
on the penalty spot,
yeah,
like kind of caught in no man's land,
yeah.
like
Oh
overcrowding the
yeah.
box. Yeah.
And this is another data point that I've been tracking, is just what are the heck are they doing? Again, today, like the Kristovich chance and the goal we conceded, was not, in my opinion, a fundamental tactical thing. You made individual error on the first goal. The Kristovic goal, honestly, is like a prototypical goal that Tudor teams let in every now and then, just because Tudor teams like to be more vertical. Like, that's not the end of the world to me, as spelling tactical doom and gloom or anything like that. Not today. Again, today was more so an inability to have any semblance of creativity and positional awareness on the attacking front, such that we went to cross and inshallah mode with 40-odd crosses that yielded nothing because we had nobody on the end of them.
Can you do me a favor, Zach? Because I'm a
Oh dear.
huge fan of your short snippets of videos tactically. No, this is an honest question. The times this season that I've seen players run into each other or practically, get in the way of each other, to me is so baffling. And I'm always trying to pinpoint the moment or the reason as to why that happens. But for the life of me, I can't see it, because it's difficult to predict when that happens, but it happens too often. I played football. I know when these things happen and they happen too often, then it's not just communication, it's positioning and the
It's
fact that
training.
you
It's training.
haven't trained. Yeah,
Yeah.
you haven't trained on your positioning or as to how you move up as a team, move back as a team.
It happens on
So
both sides of the ball too, where you see
yeah,
runners
yeah,
trying to make runs and they run into the same space.
yeah.
And then the pass doesn't come because one defender can move into that space and block off two guys. It's really annoying. We talked about a lot about last year about how when other teams get one sniff of the goal, they score. We have 24 shots. We need the most boneheaded whiff shank of a defender for us to have a chance. And just like today, Atalanta gets one sniff of a counterattack. Beautiful exchange. Boom, boom, boom. They have three combo passes and release Bellanova. Meanwhile, we can't put together three passes when we get into the final third. And from the start of the second half to the goal, we couldn't. Where's that combo play? I think, and I'm going to go back to it. I think pace of play and the players and the positions that they were in were a big part of it. But cohesion cannot be undersold. You have to know the characteristics, the inclinations, and or the intention of the players around you for you to actually play them in the way that you need to. And
Exactly.
we saw this under Mota a lot in the attacking third, where people were like clueless. And we saw that a little bit today, and we saw that absolutely against Genoa in the second game of the season. And that's a little annoying and frustrating. I'm wondering if we get a game where, say Tudor picks the team we want him to pick. Well, then we'll really get to see, one, how smart we are, Frederic, against Villarreal. But
Yeah, but
whether they can execute the way that we know Tudor wants to. Tudor's not a young coach. He has over a decade of coaching experience. We know how his teams play. They all play the same way for the most part, right? Slightly calibrated for whether he's, it's a relegation side or whether it's Marseille or Juventus, someone who's meant to be a better team. So we know what he wants to do. I think we need to see the best 11 out there. I don't think we've seen him.
does he? And I'm
That's
going to
start.
go out on a limb here because we're going to talk about the next games. And, I think we can all agree the next games are very crucial, especially the next game against Villarreal. Kevin, you already mentioned it. It's practically a must win, I think. Does Tudor, and, on the premise of us not winning in Villarreal, a draw, a loss, I don't care. Do you think Tudor will feel the sort of Damocles dangling above his head? Or are we jumping? No, it's a
He was
serious
a little.
question
He was
because
a little. If you looked
he was
if you looked at
irritated last press conference.
in his press conference, you can see there's a little irritation there,
Yeah,
and he's a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve. And when there's irritation, that's because he is, as a matter of fact, irritated at something. And it could be how his team trained, it could be the schedule, it could be the pressure he's under, but it's all indicative of a coach. If you're irritated, it means you don't feel like everything's fully under your control. As a matter of fact,
and that's what worries
I
me.
don't take a lot. I do not take any stock into what managers say in press conferences, because I think for the most part it's performative. I said this all last year with Mota giving his horrible press conferences. But when your demeanor is a certain way, it's hard to, unless they're, I mean, it's really hard for you to ignore someone's demeanor in a press conference.
Yeah.
This is, in case people haven't been paying attention to the fixture list.
Hit us with that, Kevin.
Yeah. So coming off of the Verona match,
More good news.
you look at Atalanta. Obviously, we have discussed this ad nauseum. You look at Villarreal, Milan, a up and down, but a team that has every ability to surprise any team in Como. Real Madrid, Lazio, Udinese, and then so Lazio kind of ends that tight
Six
streak.
straight.
So our next 5 matches again: Villarreal, Milan, Como, Real Madrid, Lazio.
Madness.
Tudor's future, I think, has every opportunity to be written over the course of these next 5 games.
Yeah, from a Serie A perspective, I think if you lose these or just draw out, even like last year, right? You just draw out. Our Scudetto chances are gone if you draw out, because you're just dropping points left and right. From a Champions League perspective, last year the last team to squeak into the top 8 had 16 on 24, so they dropped 8 points. Right? We've already dropped 2. Okay, imagine we lose in Madrid.
And both of these are away in Spain.
Yeah. So imagine we lose in Madrid, which is probably a reasonable result.
Did you see their result today, by the way? Did you see it?
No, I did not.
They got spanked by Atletico 5-2.
Oh wow! So they're going to be nice and pissed over the near future. That's even better for us. But it's we go into these games to win, so we have every chance. But it's just like, if you come out of these champions, just assume we lose, right? That's 8 points dropped. We would have to be perfect for the remaining 5 Champions League fixtures to have a chance at the top position. And maybe Juventus, unfortunately, and we hate to say it, maybe Juventus' odds to be a top 8 team to get that first round bye is not there, and that's maybe reasonable, but I'm not willing to accept it at this stage of the season. Yeah. We need to be doing better than that, and we shouldn't be going into as Juventus, going into against Villarreal and being like, oh God, I hope we get a result. I mean, that's really indicative of a lack of faith in our own team, which is an indictment, I guess, on what on either the players, the coach, the team, or something, which is kind of sad, to be honest. Like, I would love to feel full confidence going in there to get a result, which we should. And
I think we have every right to be frustrated today, because this is a match I think we all believe we should have won against an Atalanta side that is much weaker compared to Atalanta sides under Gasparini. However, I'm not willing to lose some of the optimism I have around this coach, this squad, this season quite yet. Because if I try and like zoom out and look at this from a super high level, we have a game today that by and large we dominated, didn't really have our shooting boots on, and we let in a goal through individual error as opposed to poor play. And I think if you play this game with this approach, with these stats, we're going to win this game 4 out of 5 times. So I think there's good things that come out of this. You rewind to the last game against Verona, a game in which we did not play well, but we also know what happened from a refereeing perspective, in which that is a penalty that should never have been called, and there was a blatant red card that gave us enough minutes to be up a man to turn that game around. And then you also you look at, we have beat our largest rival in dramatic fashion, scoring a shit ton of goals. Like, we've played 6 games so far.
But isn't that
there's
also,
a lot of positives across these games, I think, where, like, I'm not looking at these next 5 games saying, oh shit, we're screwed. I'm looking at these next 5 games saying, these are going to be tough matches, but we've got a fighting chance in every one of them.
But isn't that, also because I agree with the Verona debacle that we witnessed a week ago, but isn't that, one of the key aspects that should make you win this match, or do whatever you can to win this match? Because that was something that was missing today. And if I were the coach, I'd say, okay, guys, we got robbed today. we play fairly well, but this and this and this and this. Let's go out in our home stadium today against the weaker side because we all know that Atalanta has been weakened this season, and just make sure that we win due to ourselves. Let's get the referee out of the equation. Let's give 110%, get this in, get this result in, and do whatever we can. And I didn't see that today. So, that was one key turning point that we could have utilized in order to get a victory and or a better performance.
And that's why I agree. And Kevin, I agree with you because that's why I said earlier, I'm marking data points, not sounding alarms or anything like that. This team, this Juventus team, not just Juventus, this Juventus team should be able to get through that run of games successfully. Absolutely. Okay. I think though, maybe last year hurt me in some sort of way because we spent so much of
These last couple of years have hurt us.
No, but last year, we didn't lose.
ways.
We didn't lose in Serie A until what, December or something? Whenever that Napoli game was, right? We didn't lose forever, and it was always, we played really well, but we played really well, but playing really well, but is perfectly fine individual matches. We've strung 4 played really well buts. Well, I guess Verona was more, we played like shit and got robbed by the referee. Okay. But, Genoa today, the Dortmund game, you could argue when you start to string, we played really well butts together. That's not the mark over, of a good team.
Agreed.
Isolated incidents is fine. That happens. We come here, we say, look, guys, we got to take this one on the chin. It happens. It's a long season. When it starts happening over and over and over again, then you start to get concerned. And that's why, again, not being pessimistic, but noting what we're seeing so far, because last year we talked about it ad nauseum and I defended the team at nauseum. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happened? It imploded.
The question begs, what are we going to do if we're sitting here a week from now and we have 0 points out of the Milan and Villarreal game? Because that is actually could be a reality. I'm not gonna be negative Nancy again and say that we're gonna get 0 out of 6, but it might well be because at this point in time we could lose or win from any random team. So imagine if that happens. I wouldn't be surprised if
Well, then I think to Zach's point, some of these data points that we are seeing have started to turn into trends in which we're not improving upon. And I think Elkin and Kamoli and the powers that be would have every right to start potentially doubting whether Tudor is the right fit. I don't want to go down that.
No,
path.
The flip, but see, Kevin, the flip side.
I think that playing out that scenario, I think that would be a reasonable outcome if you're going to get 0 points out of these next 2 matches.
The flip side could be as true, and so I guess the point is, and because this run of games, in a lot of ways, as we've already said, could dictate and or show us where we actually are as a team. I think what the proper way to characterize it is we're standing at a crossroads. We're going to find out what this team is made up over the next, I guess now we're 5 more games in the 6-game stretch. What kind of character this team has, because it's not going to be any more data points. It's going to be what it is, right? It's going to be, you can't 5-6 games. You can kind of chalk some of those up to early season, whatever it might be. You're now 10, 15 games into the season. You are what you are in a lot of ways. And so I think we're at a crossroads. What are we going to see? Shades of Thiago Motta past, draws and uninspiring football, where the Inter passion and the Dortmund recovery is the exception, or are we going to see a team that grows and takes the game to Villarreal and AC Milan and Lazio and Udinese and Como and Real Madrid and shows us what character they made of, where we look back and say, these were just growing pains. This Atalanta game, this Genoa game, they're just growing pains, and we will know. We will know very soon.
It's money time. I think we can conclude with that it's money time. It's do or die now. And the honeymoon period is over and we need to get those results in. And I hope for the team, the players, the whole management, and for Tudor that we can pull it off, because I would hate if we have another season where we can say, in November, December, well, our season's done anyway, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
Can we
I
take
think
a
that's
second
fair.
though? We're deep into this episode, and so I want to make sure this gets said before we leave. We talked about the goal, but I think I just want to say for Cabal, working very hard to get back from a very long injury, to get fit, to reintegrate with the team, to be brought on against, what was it? Inter in the dying minutes, and then be marking Thuram, who then scores the goal like within 90 seconds of him coming on the pitch. Like, to see him come back, to be active, to be involved, to be in the right place at the right time and score that goal. I think I just want to take a second, applaud his recovery,
Well
J
said.
Medical and the whole medical team to get him back, his mentality to be able to come back and have the confidence to have an impact, and then have that on the pitch today. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's representative of the hard work, physical and mental, that he's put in, as well as the whole medical team behind him. So I want to applaud him and
Yeah.
all of them.
And he had
Good
some
job.
setbacks. Let's not forget, he had some inflammations after his surgery, after he started, walking again and whatever. But he pulled through, and all accolades, not from Adelaide, the regular ones, are well deserved. And also, if I might add, Lloyd Kelly. I mean, it doesn't get said enough, but every game he's there, especially today as well. He played a very good game, in my opinion, with a shaky defense overall, but he plays his games. He really has that confidence. He has the speed. He has the vision. He misses a gap here and there, but I'll chalk that down to our defense and our midfield not being, the best simians possible. But I thought he played a hell of a game today. I
This
really,
is terrifying. You guys, like, it's like we have a hive mind. I was gonna say we can't conclude this episode without acknowledging three things: Cabal's comeback, Kelly having a very good performance, and even if you
the third
take
one was
away
Zigrova. Was the third one Zigrova?
no, that the third one was actually going
Ah,
to be
no hive mind.
Suleimana's celebration after
Oh,
scoring
jeez.
for Atalanta.
That was awesome.
That was
was the-
insane.
Was
That
he was he
insane.
copying Martins? I don't know if you remember, like the
Obafemi
Inter.
Martins.
Yeah, was he copying?
Yeah.
Because it looked a lot like,
That was
I don't know.
that was wild.
The goal
Crazy
itself wasn't
celebration.
that ugly either. It was
Well, the
No, it
defending,
wasn't.
Gotti's one-on-one
Yeah.
defending was horrendous.
horrible,
I-
horrible.
Yeah, dude,
But you still,
yeah, that was
need to
bad.
finish that, even if
Mhm.
if Gotti or a random cone stands in your way.
Yeah. But even if, Frederick, to your point on Kelly, even if you take away the two very important goals that he scored against Inter and Dortmund, we shouldn't get used to that. That's not something that's going to continue to happen. He needs to be assessed on his defensive play, and that has been positive. And then I hope that continues.
Yeah.
Anything else we didn't talk about?
You criticized me when I said he's leader for comeback player of the year, Kevin, a couple episodes ago.
I did, like, we were 3 games into the season.
Hey, there's a leader at the end of the first game. Okay, it just might shift
all
a
right.
little bit.
So if he keeps
I
this
truly
up-
hope it continues to play out, because he has understandably had a ton of criticism thrown his way. He had zero responsibility to do with how Juventus handled Dean Huijsen's presence in the club,
Yeah.
and having that comparison hang over his head was nothing that he did as a person.
Do we want to mention Zigrova though, since Frederic brought him up?
Just wow. I just, like, what, like, you look at modern football today and the artistry of the dribble and taking players on one-on-one and having a bit of flexibility. And you look at our squad and you see people like Yildiz, you see Conceição, you see Zagrova, and even I'm not trying to say that he's at this level, but still has the ability to do it. Someone like a Cambiasso when he's on
and
his
Thuram.
day.
Yeah, both of them.
These are people that it's why we enjoy the match or enjoy the game, or at least a meaningful part of it, to see the artistry and that creativity. And Zagrova, knock on wood, stay healthy, and I look forward to him starting in the near future.
I have two fun facts, if I may,
Here we
regarding
go.
regarding Lloyd Kelly. Just
Oh, he's back on
note that-
Lloyd Kelly. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was a fun fact that was communicated to me when he arrived at Turin. They promised him he'd get like a house or a rental space or whatever, like every player gets. But they forgot to push that through. So we spent the first 4.5 weeks on a hotel room because they forgot to file or do all these things in order to get him accommodated. And Komoli, there's the little guy.
We have a
Komoli,
celebrity guest. Sorry for people who are
yes.
only listening. We got distracted because we have a celebrity
Yeah,
guest.
we have the future of
My,
events here, but
10-month-old son here is with me wearing, well, we're both in the home kit.
not the
He just
ugly
woke
blue
up from a
one,
nap.
Kevin. Not the ugly blue one yet. Komoli is Alcon and Komoli are furious with the Huizen situation. Livid. 2 offers came in for Kenan Yildiz. One that surpassed the 90 million mark, and it was turned down by Alcon immediately. Like he didn't. I
Fantastic.
don't think he even read the email stating the team that made that offer. He's so pissed at the way we handled the Huizen
And now, Freddie
situation.
Scoops with the scoop. He's the best in the business, see?
It's been a
Been a
while since we've heard that one.
But just to let you know and let the people know that, because I hear a lot of things like, "Oh, we're gonna sell Kenan once we get more than this and this amount. He's not blah blah blah." No, as long as Alcon's at the helm of Juve, he's gonna make sure that these things will happen. So
Well, since Kevin's on dad duty, I feel like we've covered this one, gents.
Yeah, let's see. I imagine we'll do one for Villarreal. I will be actually in Amsterdam, I think, for work. So assuming I can get back to the hotel after that one, perhaps I can do one immediately after on Wednesday.
I might join you there.
Okay.
If we don't, and we will, and folks, we do plan to do these generally immediately after the games because that works best for us, like we did today. You will certainly hear more about it during our Thursday spot on Uncle Bepe's Juve Talk Thursday live series. It starts at 10 o'clock ish Italian time on his YouTube channel. So at minimum, you hear it there. If not, a Wednesday post game from Turin Giants.
Guys, it's been a pleasure. The result in the match necessarily was not, but always fun unpacking it with you guys. And until next time, fino alla fine, Forza Juve.